Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Altea, and if you have been here for quite some time, welcome back. Today I have a very exciting project, a very exciting sweater, something magical, because today I will show you how I crocheted a Weasley sweater, which is very cozy, and I love how it turned out, and also how you can crochet too for your own shape and size a Weasley sweater. So the story behind the sweater is my husband surprised me. It will be a birthday gift, but we're going in December, so it's a pre-birthday gift, with a 2-day London trip to visit the Harry Potter tour and also some wizarding places. So obviously I couldn't do the Harry Potter tour without a Weasley sweater. That was always a must on my bucket list. I have been wanting to do this for such a long time, but life got in the way and I never managed to do this trip and to visit the Harry Potter tour. But now I'm going in December, so that's a little bit of a story about the sweater. The sweater is very simple. If you're a beginner, that's not an issue, because all you need to know is how to single crochet. If you know how to single crochet, you can do this sweater. This sweater is made up of 4 panels, which consist of the front panel, where I will show you how to make your letter, how you will create your letter using a website called Stitch Fiddle, and then how you can make this tapestry crochet to make your letter, and also how to crochet the back panel and the sleeves. The sleeves will start off with the ribbing, which is basically just single crochet again, but working only in the back loops. And then we will sew everything together or single crochet everything together, and then we will finish off the neck with the ribbing. And all this will be measured using maybe a sweater that you already have or any shirt that you already have, but ideally take those measurements of a shirt, a sweater, whatever you want, which fits you comfortably, and work on those measurements just to be safe and to have a comfortable fit, and also that it goes through your head. There will be some math involved, but don't worry, it's just simple maths, multiplication and division, so don't get too stressed up. I will show you everything, and I will also link down below a simple sheet to help you in your work progress. If you have any questions, make sure to list them down below. I will be very happy to help you. Let me know if you managed to make this sweater. I would love to see your creations. And without further ado, let's start crocheting this Weasley sweater. And most importantly, work a swatch test, which is basically a patch made out of 20 stitches by 20 rows of single crochet, which then you will measure, and on that swatch you will be able to create your sweater. But it's important that you work this swatch because we will be basing our calculations on it. So if you like this video, make sure to like and also subscribe so you will be notified with any future videos that I post. And let's get to it. Let's get started on the sweater. So for this pattern, I do not have a pattern actually, so I'm going to build it with you to also make your own for any shape and size. This can be worked for literally anyone, because I will be basing my pattern on measurements. So what you will surely need or ideally have on with you is a sweater that you already wear. So Having a sweater will help you vision how this will be worked out. Basically, I will basing my measurements on this sweater, but you can also measure yourself and as you go along. So let me take you with me how I plan to create the sweater. As I have mentioned, I will take measurements. Also, for the letter, I will be doing a graph. I will create a graph for the letter A, since my name is Altea and I would like to have it personalized for myself. I will create the letter A. You can create your own letter using a website called Stitch Fiddle. I would highly recommend working a test patch to measure your gauge, for the simple reason that once you wash your sweater, the size might change. And obviously we wouldn't want a small sweater, we want a cozy, cute Weasley sweater. So for the sweater, I have bought this merino yarn. It's very beautiful, it has a beautiful thickness to it. Merino and microfiber. It feels very soft, so I'm hoping it would not be itchy. It is recommended to use a 6mm. Very good. I will be using this. I have 5 balls of 100 grams each. And for my letter, I have this mustard. It's very beautiful, but this is acrylic yarn, but this is just for the letter. So nice. First, I will do a sketch and put in my measurements, and then we will start working on the test patch. And I will also take you with me to create the letter for my graph. So you can either do it yourself, you can find, I'm sure you can find something online, but it's basically like a tapestry crocheting. So you will be working back and forth. The sweater will be worked in patches, so we have the front panel, the back panel, and the sleeves, which will then we'll add the ribbing to our sleeves and to our waist and to the neck as well. With that, let's get to sketching and measuring. So now that I have some notes, I will take a note of the measurements of a sweater that I already have, and I will start from measurement A, which will be from seam to seam. So a seam, if you don't already know, is this line over here. So I'm going to measure from this line to this, taking the widest area. Then measurement B will be from shoulder to bottom. So I will take the top over here. until my bottom, including the ribbing, obviously. It's just the measurement of how long you would like your sweater to be. If it's a crop top, you obviously do it on your waist. If it's slightly longer, I will maybe do it on my hips. So now measurement C is for our neck. Obviously you want to be able to get your head inside. So be careful with these measurements. Ideally leave a little bit, about maybe 2 inches, which is about 4 centimeters extra, just in case. My neck is around 20, so I will take 2 centimeters more on each side. That would be 24. So I will list the neck as 24 centimeters. Then the neck height will be this measurement over here, not including the ribbing of the shirt. Ignore the ribbing of the shirt. Imagine there's no ribbing. Now measurement E will be from under the arm until the bottom. Just so we know that when we are doing our front and back panel, we will have an idea, and when we reach that measurement, that we will have to start going in to be able to have our shoulders then attached to this area. So now that I have the measurements out of the way, I will make my swatch, which is basically like a test patch, which I will crochet 20 chains by 20 rows. You can do a bigger swatch if you'd like, but I at least recommend that you will have 20 chains as the base foundation for it. So I will do 20 chains and then I will work 20 rows, which I will then measure. Then I will soak it and leave it to dry and lay it flat in order to dry. And then I will measure it again to have an idea if my sweater might shrink, at least by how much. So I will be able to work and take into consideration that amount that will be shrunk. Let's work on our swatch. So I will chain 20. By the way, if I have not, I think I mentioned it, but this is a 6mm hook, since my yarn calls for a 5.5 to 6mm. So I'm using the 6. You can also go a little bit bigger as for a hook, but by not too much, because for me personally, I don't like having holes in the sweater. In fact, I will be working the sweater using single crochets and not double, in order to have that sweater look without any holes in the sweater. So I have my 20 chains. I will chain 1 extra. So that will be my turning chain. I will single crochet into the second chain from the hook And I will keep going back and forth across, single crocheting into each one. Since, as I mentioned, the sweater I will be working will be in single crochets, and that is why it is also ideal and great for anyone who is just starting out in crocheting. Welcome to our world. If you just started, but it is very easy to make, and since it is basically built in panels, you can get to make a sweater very easily. I always chain one and then turn and single crochet back. Always make sure that you have 20 single crochets. It's ideal that you count every now and then or every time for every row. If you're just starting out, at least I would recommend that. But if you are not new to crochet, I think you know how to crochet in a straight line by now. I'm nearly halfway through my swatch and I'm thinking I might have room to go for a little bit a bigger hook. This is 6mm, so I might use the 7mm. I will unravel this and work my swatch in the 7mm just to see if it's still looking tight, not too much holes. The holes aren't too big. And once you wash it, those holes will fill up, sort of. I will unravel this and work with the 7mm. Also, I will not recommend to make a smaller swatch for the simple reason that as you go along and you're working, your tension might differ from the first few chains and stitches until your 40th, 50th stitch. So it's better to have a whole picture of how this will turn out once you start working on your sweater. Also, working on a swatch, you can also have an actual idea how much yarn you might need for your sweater. So I will unravel this and work it using my 7mm hook. So I have completed my swatch. It is made out of 20 chains and I have crocheted for 20 rows in total. And at the moment it is measuring 17.5 by 14. And this is quite stretchy. I like the way it stretches. Now I will just soak it and then I will leave it to dry and measure it again to see how the measurements differ. So let me first take a note of the measurements at the moment. Here's my pen. So let me just take a small note. So when dry, it is 17.5 centimeters by 14 centimeters. I have put in a stitch marker just for a simple reason that I think I have used so much yarn for this swatch. I might not have enough to make this sweater, but let's keep our fingers crossed. But you can chop this off and have the swatch on its own. I will just soak it as it is, and then I will unravel it and use the yarn again. So let's go and soak it, and I will come back to show you how to make the graph for your initial, your alphabet. The swatch is all dried up, and now I will just measure. For my 20 single crochets, I have 17, 17.5, something like that. And for my 20 rows, it's 15, and previously it measured 17.5 and 14, so it actually grew a little. So let's work some maths. We need to find the measurements and see how much chains and single crochets we would require to do. So for the panels, let's start with the panels. The panel will be made out of a rib, which we will single crochet back and forth in the back loops only. I will show you how. And then so these we will make 2 of these, but one of them will have the letter, your preferred letter. So we said that this measurement was 55 centimeters for me. How many chains do I have to work in order to have the correct size? So we said that 20 chains will be equal to 17.5 centimeters, which I will round up to 18, just to have a whole number. For 55 centimeters, how many chains or stitches would I require to work back and forth to make 55 centimeter waist length? So I will basically do simple maths. So I will do 55 times 20 divided by 18. It is 61.111, which I will round up to 62, which means it's a stitch extra. So across, back and forth, I will always have 62 stitches. Next, I will measure how many rows I will need to work. So we said that that measurement, which is letter E, it's from under the arm until the bottom, it is 37 centimeters. So this E is 37 centimeters. So according to my swatch, 20 rows is equal to 15 centimeters. And I will require 37 centimeters. Therefore, again, I will do some simple math, which will be 37 multiplied by 20 and divided by 15, which will be 49.33 recurring, and I will go up to 50. So I will need to make to work 50 rows. And this is the basic mat I will be using to work out my panels. Now measurement B. Again, I will see how big the actual sweater will have to be. So measurement B, from the shoulder to the bottom, we have 60 centimeters. So we said the 20 rows is equal to 15 centimeters. So we have to find 60 centimeters. How many rows do we need to work? So I will do 60 multiplied by 20 divided by 15. That means that I have around 80 rows to work. So to sum it up, I have 60 centimeters will be 80 rows. The 37 centimeters will be 50 rows. And the length of how many stitches I will be working back and forth is 62 stitches. So first off, I will be starting off to work the rib. And I will show you how to do that. So now that I have measured my swatch, I will not be needing it anymore. And I also might not have enough yarn, so I'm going to unravel it and use this to start building up my front panel. So to make the rib, I will chain 9 chains. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I have my 9 chains. Now I will single crochet 8. So I will single crochet into the second loop from the hook. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So I have my 8 single crochets. And now, working back and forth, I will work into my back loops. As you can see, I have 2 loops here, which makes a V, and I will work into the back one. So working a single crochet into the back loop. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Just be careful to grab the last loop, as it's not as much obvious as the rest. So now, before turning, I will chain 1, turn my work, and work once again into the back loop. This will create the rib effect. and turn, and once again into the back loop. I will keep working until this measures 55 centimeters, which is my length letter A. So I've finished my ribbing, and it measures 55 centimeters, which is my length letter A. Now I will need to figure out how to do my increases. Basically, I have said that for my 55 centimeters, I will be needing to single crochet 62 stitches. And I will be single crocheting now. So, you know, I'll be working my ribs this way. Now I will turn it and work on this side. And as you can see, we have these holes in between. So we have this one. So I will be using these holes to place my single crochets in there. So the first thing I need to do is count these tiny holes where I can place my single crochets. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 35, 36, 37, 38. I will place the last one, obviously, somewhere in here. It will be a bit tricky to get my hook in, but I will need to do it to close for it to be in line. So that is 38 stitches, and I will need 62. I will grab my notepad and make some calculations. So I have 38 holes and I need to place 62 stitches. So if we make 2 stitches into each one, we will have 38 times 2, which will be 76 stitches, which will be a little bit too much. 76 minus the 62 is 14, which means that I will do an increase into each one except for 14 stitches, which I will try to place every now and then. So far I'm doing an increase and the single crochet, an increase and the single crochet. So I have 1, 2, 3, which is a single, and I need 14. So now that I have my 62 single crochets, I will just single crochet back and forth. Remember to always single crochet 1 at the end, then you turn and you start single crocheting into each one. Just try to count every now and then in order to have a perfect line edges at the end, and not start to deviate and get a sloppy looking edge. I will keep going back and forth for about 50 rows. In order to place the letter will finish on the 50th row, which will be in line with your shoulder, and this you will have, like this, you will have the letter on your chest area, sort of somewhere here, which I think is a good place. I most probably need to work the letter to be placed in about 20 rows, which will be like a third of your shirt. You don't want the letter too big, so I think if I do the letter on a 20 grid box, I think it would be a good placement for my shirt, for my sweater. So since I have 50 rows and I will do a grid box of 20, I will work my way up to 30 rows, and on my 31st row I will start to incorporate the letter. So let me take you first with me to create the letter for a 20 grid box. I will show you how to create it for your own letter, and also how big you would like it to be. You can make it smaller or bigger, depending also on the size of your hook that you're working with. Obviously, the smaller your hook is, the smaller the letter will be, and the more rows that you will have. So just be careful and eyeball how many rows you would like the letter to fit on. So let me show you how you can create this grid box letter. The Weasley Sweater, the alphabet is based, it's very close to the Times New Roman, but I will show you the font which I base my letters upon, and show you how you can create yours, again eyeballing it on the graph. But you can use any font that you would like to create, so just have fun with it. It's your own sweater, it's created for your own self, to your own size, so it's pretty fun if you tell me. And I can't wait to finish it and wear it for my tour. So let me show you how to create this. Now that I am on Stitch Fit, I will create a new grid. I will select Other and create an empty chart. I will insert the measurements in terms of a number of rows and columns, which are 20 by 20. So I will create the chart, and from here I will just select the color. I will give the design a title first, and then select the color. I will go with red, and I will just start creating the design. Whenever I make a mistake, I will just select the color white and undo it. Just have fun with it and create your design.
Once you are done created, you can just download it and save it as a PDF, or you can print it right away. And that's it. That's how you create your own letter in Stitch Fiddle.
Good morning, guys. It is the next day, and yesterday I have worked my way through the back panel and the front panel just until row 50 for the back panel, which is this, which will be until underneath my shoulder. And for my front panel, I have worked my way up to row 30, as between rows 31 and 50 I will start working on my letter. So I have done a little bit of a demo to show you how you can make your own letter using this website, Stitch Fiddle. It's completely free, and this is what I came up with. I have made this grid of 20 by 20. It will be like a third of my sweater where I have the letter. So I think that's a good place. And for my letter, I will be using this mustard. It's very beautiful, but it is not merino, it is acrylic. That's completely fine. I will only use a touch of this just for the letter. When choosing your yarn, be careful to have at least nearly the same thickness so it doesn't alter your growth of your sweater. Okay, this is quite near to what I'm working with. It's quite thick as well. As for this yarn, later on I will need for sure to go and buy at least maybe another two, because I only have this left. And so far I only drew the front and back panels. So now I will show you how to do the tapestry crochet, where first you need to look at your piece, and if you have done any, not color changes, any yarn where you've added some yarn and maybe this might show a little bit, you have created a front and the back, which is also known as the right side and the wrong side of your work. So here I have these two yarn pieces here where I hid my tails. So this for me is the back panel. So now here I will be working on the back, and this is my front. So I would want the letter A to be visible the right way on this side. So when looking at my grid, on the grid you have numbers. You have numbers from 1 to 20 on each side of the grid. And I will start from the bottom, working my way up to the top. So depending on which side of your panel you are on, you will decide to start either from this side and work your way up, back and forth, or else from this side and you will work your way up, back and forth. I'm in my back panel, as I said. So this will be my front, and I will be working this way up. So I will not need to start working from the left hand side. Now, in order to position it in the middle, what I would do, you can either simply just find your middle like this, but we should know how many stitches we have, so we can also count and find the middle of your stitches. So to find where you will place your letter, you will need some stitch markers or maybe some yarn. So I have found my middle stitch. And now what I will do is count both left and right where the 20 stitches will be placed. So on your grid you have a midline, and you can count the boxes as well. But since it's a 20 by 20 graph, it's obviously 10 by 10. So I will count 10 stitches this way and 10 stitches that way. So this is my first stitch, my mid, and that's my last stitch. So now what's all left to do is to start single crocheting in this color, and then I will show you how to do a color change. This will take us up to row 50, where after row 50 we will need to do some calculations again, a little maths, to find out where the collar, where the neck will be placed and how big, etc., from the measurements we've taken in the beginning. So let me show you how to do this tapestry crochet. As I mentioned, this is the wrong side of my panel. I have done a knot here to add my yarn. So what I will do is single crochet into each stitch until my stitch marker. My pattern for the first row, which I will start, as I mentioned, from this side, which is the left side of the pattern, I will require to make a color change into that first stitch marker. So I will work all the way through until the stitch before where I require to change my yarn. I will do a single crochet halfway through, which I will show you how that is done in order to make our color change. So I will chain one and single crochet into each one. So I will insert my hook, yarn over, and instead of yarning over with the same color, I will grab my mustard colored yarn, yarn over, and pull through using this color. And like that we have done our color change. It's important to keep your yarn at the back side of your panel, which for me is currently facing me. So for my first stitches I have 7 stitches in red. So I will remove my stitch marker and single crochet 7. While single crocheting, I will keep this is the yarn from my ball, which I will continue working the middle of the letter A and also on the side. So I will need to carry over the yarn. So in order to carry it over, I will keep it in the middle whilst I work and work around it, like so. I will insert my hook, the tails are in between, and single crochet. So I'm thinking I don't like that much how this side is showing for my first few stitches. So actually I'm going to work another row in order to be able to start my letter on the right side. Although the letter will be worked back and forth, so we have both sides of the stitches, but to start off.
I think I prefer it this way. So let me just work another row of single crochets. Find my center again. And we will start on this side instead. So my number 1 stitch will be over here. Okay, so now I'm on my right side of the panel. So I'm working on this side. I will work my way up to my first stitch. This is the last stitch before my stitch marker. I will yarn over and pull through, and then yarn over with the new color and pull through, pull a little bit my burgundy, and I will keep these 2 yarn at the back. And I will work my way through, keeping the yarn in the middle. That's my first change. I need to do 6 stitches in this color. So that's 3, 4, 5 and 6. Since this is the last one and I need to change it back to my burgundy, I will not work it all the way through and do a color change. Pull a little bit my mustard, and that's our first base. Now I will need the mustard again for this part of my letter, so I will be carrying it over with me in between the stitches as we did for the burgundy. So in between I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have 7 stitches in between. That's 1, 2, 3, and we remove my mid stitch marker. So on my 7th single crochet, I will not work it all the way through. Yarn over with the new color. And I will single crochet 7 in mustard again, keeping the burgundy in the middle again in order to continue working with that colored yarn. Work it all the way through, yarn over with the next color. I will single crochet in burgundy until the end, and I will come back and forth to continue my letter for row 2. This is how it is looking, and this is how my back is looking, where you can see the yarn passing through. I will cut this piece later on. A small tip is to keep your yarns in line. They might get tangled a bit. So I'm back to my letter, and this time I will be single crocheting from this side to here. So the first one will be in burgundy, and then I will change the color to make these 5 over here. So I can single crochet to the next one and do my color change here. I will grab this yarn and put it on this side, since this is the back side of my panel. Grab my mustard and do the color change. This, as I said, I will now keep in the middle to work it all the way through, and I will single crochet now 5 in mustard. The 5th I will leave unworked. Change my yarn. Now I have 9 in red. Just 1, 2, 3, 4. The 9th worked halfway at the back, and now I have 4. So keeping my red in the middle. It's 1, 2, 3, and the 4th not worked all the way through. This at the back, change. This we can leave it here now, we don't need to keep yarning over it, and single crochet the rest. This is basically how you will be creating your letter, crocheting back and forth following your grid. Just take notes and stroke out whatever rows that you worked already. This is how it's going. The yarn might show a little bit through, so I think I might work with bubbles just to avoid having this mustard showing in between. I will unravel. Now I can either create a bubble, or else I will just grab this yarn tail, which is the other end from the same yarn ball, to create the other side. I think it will be neater. So this will go at the back, and I will leave it here. And using this yarn, I will only crochet the left side. So now I will single crochet my 9 single crochets. Join this new color, which I will be using for my right side of my letter, and I will single crochet 4. Keep this tail in the middle in order to weave it right away, instead of waiting until we finish the project and weave in the end. This way it will be done or ready for you. So the color change. I forgot to take my red yarn in between, but it's not a big issue. Yep, that's better. There's no yarn showing in between. So just be careful when you have all these strands of yarn coming out of your sweater, as they might get tangled a bit whilst working. So now I will single crochet back and forth and start working on my third row of the letter. So now I have done the color change, and I will single crochet 4 on top of the 4 that I already did with this color. I will keep my burgundy at the back. I will also grab this tail and try to hide it even more, or maybe chop it off. Might be fastened enough. So now, keeping the burgundy in the middle, I will single crochet 4, leaving the fourth knot worked all the way through, and change the color back. Move your yarn around so that it doesn't tangle. So this will go back there. Now I have 10. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Change the color, and I have 3. So that's 1, 2, and leave the third unworked. Change my color, put this at the back, and continue working in burgundy. And we are slowly building our letter. And I will continue this back and forth until I reach my row 50, and I would have finished the letter A. Just always remember to do your color changes and keeping the tails at the back, so all the confusion will happen on one side and you will keep the other side clean and tidy. And I will see you back when my letter is done. This is the information I have so far, which is that I have 62 stitches wide and 50 rows until underneath the shoulder. And now I will have to find these lengths, which is this X over here, which will be under the shoulder, where I will be connecting my arm. That's why there's this part. So I need to find this X here, and then I will have to find Y and Z, which are the measurements C and D. Now, taking into consideration the swatch, we will use the swatch to measure how big and where we will place these parts of the panel. So let's start from letter D. We'll see how many rows this would take approximately. So rows, we have 20 rows. We said it's 15 centimeters, and letter D, we said it is 11 centimeters. So simple maths would be 20 times 11 divided by 15 will be 14.66. So let me get my back panel. So this is my back panel, and so far I have crocheted until row 50. So in order to count the stitches, basically wherever you see these ridges here, 2 rows. So I have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. you can count that way. So I said that I need 14 stitches for my neck, so that would be 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. It would be this big. Let's say we have 14 rows for our neck. And see how many stitches wide. So 20 chains is 17.5 centimeters. And we have 24 centimeters. So that's 20 multiplied by 24 divided by 17.5, 27.4. So say we have 27 stitches. So now that I have this information, I can determine how big I should do these X's. So far I have 50 rows. This here will be 27 stitches wide. And this would be 14 rows. So looking at going back to measurement B, we said that we have 80 rows in total for our shirt. Let's do some simple maths to find this measurement, which would be 80 minus 50 minus 14, which is 16. So between row 50 and before starting the neckline, we have 16 more rows to work. Now, how far should we go inside after row 50? So wide we said that it is 62 stitches. So I will do 62 minus 27, which is 35. 35 has to be divided by 2 to find this measurement, which is 17.5. So obviously on one side we will have one extra stitch more than the other, which will not show that much. So say it is 17. 17 stitches look like, so let me take here. So say this is the first stitch, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. That is 17 stitches. So I think I will do 7 stitches and leave 10 at the top. So after my 50th row, I will decrease 7 stitches from each side, and that will leave me with 10 stitches on one side and 11 on the other. My plan now is to, after working my 50 rows, which are these, I will start decreasing by making a slip stitch on each side, 7 stitches from this side and 7 stitches from this side. And I will grow my piece upwards with 16 rows. Then on my 17th row, I will start working to do my neck area. So let's do it step by step. First, I will decrease 7 stitches on both sides and grow my piece by 16 rows. So I have just finished my letter. I'm quite getting excited there because it looks pretty good. I love how it turned out. So the next step, as I said, is to mark and slip stitch into 7 stitches in order to start making room for our shoulders. So I will first use a stitch marker to mark 7 stitches on each side. So I have marked my 7 stitches,
And now I will start growing for about 16 rows upwards until I start working on the neck part. Let me show you how to slip stitch, and then I will just single crochet back and forth between the stitch markers.
So to slip stitch, I will just insert my hook, yarn over, and pull all the way through. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. These stitches will then be used to yarn together the sleeves. So from this marker onwards, I will now just single crochet. I will mark this stitch just to remember when I get back to it that this was the last stitch and not get confused with any of these stitches. So single crochet until the other stitch marker. So I've reached my stitch marker, and what I will do now is simply chain 1 and turn my work and single crochet back and forth as we did previously for 16 rows in total. So I've already done row 1 and this is row 2. So I will do another 14 rows then. And I will be back to show you the neck area, how we will tackle the neck area.
Okay, so my 16 rows are done. This is what I have now. And now it's time to start creating the neck. So for the neck, let's go back to the mat. So for the neck we said we need 14 rows and it will be 27 stitches wide. And you can either make a boxed one, literally leaving 27 stitches in the middle and going up 14 rows right away. Or if you want to make a circular one, you will need to do a little bit of a calculation, which is very simple actually. So if you keep up with me, you might manage to do this thing. Basically, we will be decreasing twice each round, a decrease and a decrease, so this will grow like this, but a row there you will have a decrease, and the next row you just single crochet along and then make another decrease. So if we have 14 rows, that means that we will do a decrease in 7 rows, since we're going to go back and forth and decreasing in a row, and then the next we just single crochet, decrease in a row and single crochet. So we have 7 decreases that we will be doing. So that means if we have 27 stitches, and we are going to do 7 decreases on each side, 7 times, 7 decreases on each side. That means we have 14 decreases, and that means 14 less stitches. 27 minus 14, it will be 13. So I will start off with leaving 13 stitches, and then I grow my piece to have 27 stitches in between. So what I will do is find the middle of this, which can be done as simple as doing this. And mark my middle stitch. But you can also count to make sure that this is even. So that is my middle. Now I need to place 13 stitches. So that is where my neck will start off. And basically now I will be single crochet one part and then single crochet this afterwards. So I will start to single crochet until I have 2 remaining, and I will start my first decrease. Let me take you along with me and show you what I'm doing. But again, you can always opt to making a box neck. It's also good. You still have to do the ribbing at the end, so see what you want to. What's your vision? What was your vision for this sweater? So I'm here to help you make this sweater come true. But I did not find many tutorials about this, so I needed to make my own Harry Potter sweater.
I will insert my hook and yarn over, insert my hook into the next one and yarn over, and then single crochet all of them together. Now from here I will simply turn my work and single crochet back. So this is my third row. I have 2 stitches left where I will input my decrease. And there we have another decrease. And now again I will turn my work and single crochet back. I will keep repeating this for 14 rows. As you can see, our collar is starting to take a circular shape. Once this is done, I will be doing the same thing on this side. I will start off from here by joining the yarn and then decreasing the last 2. So this side of the neck is done. You can see the circular shape taking form. And now I will start working on this side. I have left the tail on this side to be able to start joining in the front and back panel together using this yarn. So I will insert my hook into the first stitch and single crochet. I will weave in the tail whilst I'm working, so I will keep this in the middle as we did for the when we were crocheting the letter. If along the way of these decreases you're unsure of how many decreases you should have done, you can always count the stitches. We know that, for example, for me, I needed to have 10 stitches remaining at the top. So once you reach those number of stitches, you can just work your way up into a straight line. So here I had 11 and 10 on one side and the other. So if you get confused why it's decreasing, don't worry, just count your stitches. So now I have the last 2 stitches, and here I will input my decrease. Chain 1 and turn my work. And now I will just single crochet back. You can now just chop off this. Chain 1 and turn. And now we are back onto a decreasing row. And back into the last 2 where I will put my decrease. And I will just keep working back and forth. And like this, the front panel will be done. I will work just the same way the back panel. So I will have 2 panels looking like this, obviously, except for the letter. It will be a plain panel. And once I finish my back panel, I will come back to show you how I do the sleeves, where they will be connected right over here.
What did you say your name was? I didn't.
Hi guys, so it is the next day and so far I have finished the front and back panel. This is the front panel and this is the back panel. I have not attached it yet, I just was so happy that it was done. I wanted to give it a try, so I attached the stitch markers to be able to get it through my head, which gets in quite well. So for the next step is going to be the sleeves, and for the sleeves I will have to show you how to know how big and obviously how long that you have to work your sleeve. So for the sleeve I have already started on a sleeve. It will look something like this. First off, we will start with the ribbing, and I will show you how long you will make that, and then you will start increasing to the point that this number of stitches is equal to the number of stitches that you will have here, from here all the way to here, because this is where we will be attaching our sleeve. So this is where the arm will be attached. And this is my arm. I have reached the number of stitches required to be able to make that fit in quite well. So let me show you how that is done and calculated, and we'll get started on it right away. So your arm will look something like this. We'll start off with the ribbing, where you will chain 7 and then work 6 single crochet back and forth into the back loop. And then we will take this measurement of the ribbing. Let's say it is X. We need to find out how many rows do we need to work and how many stitches do we need wide. So in order to find the letter Z, we will need to go back to our front and back panels. As I mentioned, the arm will fit into the front and back panel. So going back to the front and back panel, I know that over here I have 30 rows for the arm over here. So this is the front panel, and obviously like this I have the back panel. So that means that I have another 30 rows over here. So I know that I have 30 rows, and this way I can find the measurement. So going back to the swatch, that is why it's very important to make a swatch. So now we will work some simple maths in order to find this measurement over here. So we said that we have 60 rows because we have the front panel and the back panel. So we have 30 over here and 30 over here. And this all makes the arm. So 60 times 15 divided by 20. And that will give us the number 45. So this Z over here, it is 45 centimeters. So now, knowing that number, I can know how many stitches. How many single crochets I will need to have for my letter Z. Since 20 chains is equal to 17, we need to find 45. To know the number of stitches, we will take the 45 multiplied by 20 stitches divided by 17 centimeters, and that will give us the number of stitches that we will have to do for our letter Z, which is equal to 51 stitches. You can round it up to 52, as we will be doing an increase on both sides, so it's always equal. So we found that letter Z is 52 stitches. Now to find the Y, before finding the Y, we need to work the ribbing in order to find that X length, and then we will determine how long this would be.
For this measurement, we will have to go back to the measurement we have taken at the start, which is the letter F, the arm length, which is, for me personally, it is 67 centimeters. So now I will show you how to make the ribbing. We will then measure it, and then we'll be able to find that Y. I have started off with 7 chains, and then single crochet back and forth 6 times. Have 6 single crochets. It's the same way as we did the ribbing for our sweater. So if you want a deeper look on how I did this ribbing, make sure to head back to where I showed you in detail how this is done. You will keep growing your piece until I have a comfortable fit. So my ribbing is done. Start working my way up, and we will work first. It will grow just a little until we reach our number of stitches that we require wide, and then I will be going straight up the number of rows required to grow. So when measuring the length F, we measured from the neck downwards. So this would consist of also the ribbing at the end, and also a little bit of the neck that we have over here, which we need to take into consideration how long our sleeve will be. So now that I have my ribbing done, I will just measure it. Obviously there's room for shrinking, so this is not a very accurate measure, but say it is about 4 centimeters. So I have 4 centimeters ribbing. Now as for the top part of my panel here, I know that I have about 10 stitches, so I need to find that measurement in centimeters. Again, working the simple maths, I believe it's called the rule of 3. How many stitches is how much, and find your number. I know that it's about 9 centimeters for my top front panel. Let's call it neck. And my measurement for the arm is 67. So this 67 will consist of this rib, this neck, and like this we will find the Y. So in order to find Y, I will just make 67 minus the 4 minus 9, which is equal to 54, which are centimeters. And now I need to find 54, how many rows I will need to single crochet in order to reach 54 centimeters for my sleeve. So again, some simple maths. 54 multiplied by 20 divided by 15, and that is 72, which means that this Y here is 72 rows. So I need to grow my sleeve for 72 rows. So during this phase here, I will do increases every now and then, and the increase will happen in one row there's an increase, the other just single crochet normally. The other row has an increase, the next ones you single crochet normally. Going back to our ribbing, first thing we'll be doing is that into each hole here in between, I will insert 2 single crochets into each one. For me personally, I have about, so let's say that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. So I have 19 stitches where I will do 2 single crochets into each. So my arm will start off with 38 stitches, which I then eventually need to grow up to 52 stitches. Two single crochets, another 2 single crochets, So now that my increases are done, I will just single crochet back into each one. So my round of single crochets is done, and now from this onwards I will start increasing at the end and single crocheting in between. So for an increasing round you will do an increase on both the first and last stitch, and then the next row will just be a single crochet, and then again you will do an increasing round where you will put an increase in the first and then increase into the last. And you keep working like this until you reach the number of stitches that you require for your arm sleeve to be wide. So I put 2 stitches into the first one. I will just single crochet into each one until my last stitch. This is my last stitch, but I will input 2 single crochets into the same stitch and single crochet into each one. There will be no increases in this row. As you can see, the arm is already growing. So we have an increasing row and then just single crochet, an increasing row and single crochet. So this is what it looks like until you reach the number of stitches you require. So from now onwards I will just keep going upwards in this direction. I had around 16 increases to place evenly, and that is what it looks like. So I had an increasing round, single crochet, increasing round, single crochet, increasing round, single crochet, and our arm is taking shape. I will keep single crocheting back and forth now until I have my 72 rows all the way up, and I will show you now, after the sleeves are done, how to sew everything together.
So it's 2 days later and I have finished both the sleeves, which will look like this. You can see that I have the ribbing, and then I have the increase where I have an increasing row and then a single crochet all the way through, increasing row, single crochet all the way through, until I got the number of stitches I calculated I required to be able to fit this to my front and back panels. So now that my 2 sleeves are done, it's time for the most exciting part, which is sewing everything together. So now what I will do is place everything with the right side facing downwards, and I will single crochet through on the back side of my pieces.
basically what determines the good side from the back side, or the right side from the wrong side, or maybe if you have made some yarn changes or any weaving off which happened on that side. So let me assemble everything together and start single crocheting.
where I'm at the moment. I have just sewn the top parts together, the sleeve with the front panel and the front and back panel together, and it's looking very good. The neck is a bit wide, but I will then do some ribbing so that can be adjusted. Other than that, it's looking like I'm gonna have a sweater done soon. So next step is single crocheting together the sleeves and then closing the front and back panel together. Obviously all of this is worked on the wrong side, which is the back side of your sweater. And then I will be back to show you how to make the ribbing for the collar, which is basically the same thing we did down here. Okay, so I have single crocheted all around and it is currently on the wrong side. So now all I have to do is flip it and start working on the ribbing for the neck. First, let's try this on. I'm very excited. Oh my god, I have made a sweater! I did leave this part here open. I'm thinking I'll single crochet a little bit. Maybe I'll do two rounds of single crochet and then I'll start the ribbing. And I'll see how that goes. But other than that, it's a very good size. It's very cozy. I can't believe I actually made this sweater. So I'm gonna start from the back and I will do maybe 2 rounds of single crochets, and when doing the single crochet round I will maybe input some decreases every here and there. So for the ribbing, what I'm going to do is using a smaller hook. I was working with a 7mm and this is a 6mm hook. So I will start off with the loop, starting from the back of the neck. I will insert my hook into any stitch. And now I will just chain. So this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I will chain 6 and then single crochet into each one. So those are 5 single crochets, and now I will just slip stitch into the next stitch, turn my work and single crochet into the back loops.
So that's 6 single crochets, turn, work 6 single crochets back down, and then slip stitch into the next stitch, and repeat this to make a collar around all the neck until we get back to where we started.
Ellie, I finished it. You like it?
Yes!
Vera?
كملتي حلوة.
Oh, thank you. طيب جي.